no! This one doesn't... This one... Hello? Editing Mimi can deal with it. I gave everyone, anyone, anything 5 stars. The first being the 7th. Give it the right one! Apparently my second microphone was also out of battery, so everything I filmed previously also did not have a set of microphone with it. So you're gonna be hearing a lot of raw sounds from my camera. Hopefully it's not too bad. Hopefully there's not too many sounds in the background, like my dog grunting on the floor right now. Hi friends, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my June monthly wrap-up. I can't believe that it's already been officially at the halfway point of 2024. It felt so long ago that I gotten back into reading, but also so ridiculously short, because if you guys don't remember, I only really started rapidly reading at the end of 2023, but I've already blown away my 2024 reading challenge, which was 53 books. I think at the current moment I've read a little bit over that goal, and I believe in the future I'm just going to keep it at 52 books. I'm not trying to stress myself out with reading. Reading is just personally a hobby for me, and I'm not really trying to reach any large amount of goals. If I hit it, I hit it, and if I don't, I don't. It's not really gonna stress me out. I think 52 books a year is also like a really large number of itself already, so I'm not too stressed about that. But with that being said, definitely keep an eye out for the future videos, because I am so interested in doing the mid-year freakout tag and also my Q1 and Q2 reading statistics. I know I do like little bits and pieces of statistics here and there for my monthly wrap-up, but I think if you got to see the whole spectrum of all the books I read along with the data with all of the months combined, I feel like it gives a much less skewed version of the data. Because something I realized in this month particularly, there was a lot of skewed data, especially with the star rating, because I read a bunch of books from a series, and if you enjoy the series, it'll ultimately kind of skew the rating for the month up a little bit. Aside from all of that, let's get into my reading statistics for June. June was a pretty good month. I read a total of 11 books, totaling around 4,000 pages read, which is my highest amount of pages read so far in 2024, which is kind of amazing. I didn't think I would surpass last month in May, but apparently I did. All of this data is kind of giving me insight. I thought April would be my highest books read slash pages read, just simply because I was on vacation, but that is actually not the case. It seems like as the months progress, I become a much faster reader and I just devour all the books, because apparently this month is my highest reading month so far. So definitely a shocker on my end. So for this month, I had an average star rating of 4.65, which is absolutely spectacular. Though I will have to say it's mainly because I read a bunch of books as part of a series, and I really enjoyed that series. And as a result, the star rating got bumped up really high, since I think I rated 4 different books as part of that series 5 stars, and I only read 11 books so far this month. So 5 stars, that's a little bit less than half from just one series alone. So that's probably why it kind of skews the data just a little bit, but I don't really mind that. I think that I really like the fact that I split my manhwas into individual volumes or seasons, because I feel like it's much more manageable for me to calculate how many pages I read and also keep track of where I'm at, since what happens a lot of time with manhwas is that it's an ongoing series. So even though I haven't officially finished the whole series or the whole manhwa, I did finish a set number of chapters, and it just makes me feel a little bit more accomplished during my reading months that are more manhwa heavy. So a little sidetrack, a little explanation details about how I track my manhwas, and also why I feel like it's a little bit skewed, but I like it because it feels like I accomplished and I read a lot more books than I would have normally if I tracked it just traditionally saying that the whole series is one whole book. Moving on, let's talk about the amount of money I saved this month, which was $35 for 2 books at the beginning of the month, which were library loans. The first being Part of Your World and the second being Yours Truly. But does it really count as a library loan? Can I still count Yours Truly even though I ended up purchasing the book? I think yes, because technically I wouldn't have bought this book if I didn't know I enjoyed the library loan so much, and also that read was technically on a library loan read, so I'm just gonna put it as part of a library loan slash amount of money saved, even though I ended up purchasing this book. But during a reread, which I know I want to do because I love this book so much, I will probably mark it as a purchase, since it's physically in my hand, and I did purchase it. This month, I'm going to try something a little bit different now, and I'm gonna add a section for books I'm rolling over for the month of July. These are books that I have not necessarily completed finishing for whatever various reasons. I want to be able to give that reason and also let you guys know that this month I did read other books aside from the books that I talk about in the monthly wrap-up as well, because I feel like some books just don't get the highlight that they deserve. Or for my case in this month, I did roll over a bunch of books, so I feel like there isn't too many books to talk about. So let's dive right in on how many books I rolled over. This month I rolled over 3 books, the first being Funny Story. Funny Story is a great book, solid read. I think I'm about a little over a third of the way through at the moment. Honestly, the only reason it was not completed in June was because I didn't have it on my Kindle, and also because I started the book about 3 days before the month was over, so I couldn't physically finish it in the amount of time that I had just because I was out and about all weekend. The next book I'm rolling over for the month of July is There Is No Ethan. This is the autobiography slash memoir about 3 women being catfished. I think I talked about this a little bit in my June TBR, but this book is not hooking me at all. I am listening to the audiobook and it's so dry. It's the definition of tell and not show. So hopefully in July I'll have much more of an update and maybe my opinion will change on it, but as of right now, 70% of the way through, it's a little bit dry, but I'm gonna push forward and just finish it anyways. The last book I'm rolling over for the month of July is I'm the Tyrant's Secretary. This, I thought, really gave the vibe of What's Wrong with Secretary Kim. If you guys have watched that K-drama or read that manhwa, that was basically what I came into thinking. But honestly, it's kind of like a dry read. I'm not really invested in any of the characters. Honestly, the male lead isn't my type either. And I paused it halfway through the month because Lauren from Love Lauren gave me some awesome recommendations. So instead of finishing that, I ended up reading Villains Are Destined to Die, and I was obsessed with it. You guys probably heard in my previous reading vlog. So I have about 20 chapters left for I'm the Tyrant's Secretary. I think I'm just gonna wrap it up, but I'm not expecting to give it any high rating because I'm not really invested in the plot or the story at all. There's no rom-com, there's no funny moments. The plot is a little bit lackluster in my opinion, especially given how stereotypical it is. It really didn't stand out to me at all, and I'm probably going to be rating it a 3 or even lower. Alright, also a new addition to my monthly wrap-up is the ongoing series section. As an avid manhwa and manga reader, a lot of the stuff I'm reading is technically ongoing. That means it's not completed, but I feel like they never get the highlight that they deserve because sometimes that series might take ages before it's completed, and if it's ongoing and it's in my ongoing stash, you already know it means I'm obsessed with it. So going forward, I will always mention the series that I have started and it's ongoing during my monthly wrap-up, but it will only ever appear the first month that I ever started on, and then also in my reading vlog and whenever they are completed. So if I don't mention these series in the next monthly wrap-up, it doesn't mean that I have dropped it. It just means that it's on the back burner and I don't want to repeat myself multiple times throughout the months. So when they're finished, I'll mention it, and then if I end up DNFing it, it will be part of the monthly wrap-up as part of a DNF, and if I end up reading it during reading vlogs, you'll also hear about it during the reading vlogs themselves as well. Alright, now let's talk about the books that are currently ongoing, but I started it in June. The first being How to Win My Husband Over Season 2. The second is I Swear We're Just Friends Season 1. And the last but definitely not least is Villains Are Destined to Die Season 4. Honestly, How to Win My Husband Over is so good. I might actually pick up the web novel in July, but no promises yet. I am not sure how I'm gonna squeeze all of that in on top of all the books that I said I was going to read already. So it might not actually be squeezed in and I'll just slowly follow the manhwa progression of it. But we're currently on a cliffhanger for that book and I just really want to know what happens next, because what is with all these terrible brothers? Actually, I'm gonna close that discussion here because I think I'm gonna talk about it in a little bit as part of my reading wrap-up. Alright, let's talk about my favorite visual of all time, which is my pages read per day broken down by books. This month I read approximately 134 pages a day, which is honestly mind-blowing for me. I thought last month was really good at a solid 117 pages read, but this month just blew it out of the waters. I don't know how I managed to read that much because quite honestly, I felt like the past couple of days or the last week of July, I really slowed down with a lot less reading, and also the fact that I was out and about a lot this month, I just didn't feel like I had a lot of time to read. But surprisingly, I read so much, which I guess it's a good thing, right? even though I've been so busy. However, I feel like this is my way of trying to take control of my life, since instead of sleeping, I'm reading when I really should be sleeping. I know I briefly mentioned this in the last video about how busy I've been with work, and as a way to kind of take back my life, I have decided to ruin my own life instead. Like, work, you can't ruin me, I'll ruin my own life by reading and staying up late instead of sleeping on time. So this month has been a lot of like 3 a.m 4 a.m sessions. I don't know why, but I've been doing that just to read and just to do nothing, I guess. This has nothing to do with this video, well, except for the fact that it's probably the reason why I read so much more this month. But let's move on from this piece of data and on to the next one, which is my format breakdown. Alright, surprisingly this month my physical books and the mangas and manhwa managed to tie with each other. Even though I said this month was supposed to be my physical book edition, I ended up just devouring a bunch of manhwa and manga recommendation from both my husband and Lauren, but no regrets there. I thoroughly enjoyed myself this month because I managed to get a 4.65 average star rating, which is kind of mind-blowing to me, honestly. I didn't expect to have such a good reading month. But with that being said, I do now have still a bunch of physical books tackle, but that's all right. We'll use them as part of my reading TBR for the future. Slowly but surely I'll incorporate them, and eventually that reading cart will slowly dwindle down to hopefully 1 or 2 books. Speaking of average star rating, here is my current star breakdown. Alright, as you guys can see on the screen, my star rating for this month was out of this world. I had such a good time. I gave everyone, anyone, anything 5 stars basically, because this month was just that good. I started this month off extremely solid and I ended this month extremely solid as well. Even though I had a couple of books that were slow in between, I knew myself well enough to kind of just soft DNF it or just put it away in the back burner for books that I'm much more interested in, which is the reason why it has such a high star rating. However, as a result, we do see that the graphs are completely skewed with a bunch of 5s and no 1s, 2s, and 3s. Of course, once I finish, there is no Ethan and I'm the tyrant secretary. The number is going to go down a little bit, but that part will be more obvious in July or in my quarterly wrap-up. Honestly, there is really not much for me to say except June was just the month where I started giving out a bunch of 5 stars. Maybe I have relaxed my reading range a little bit or what I give my star rating. I'm not someone who will give 1s or 2 very easily. 90% of the time it's for mood vibes alone, and if I enjoy the book reading it at that time, I will probably give it a 5 star. Alright, now let's talk about my genre breakdown. As you guys can see on the screen, I actually have a lot of books that are labeled as historical genre this month. However, it's slightly skewed because of all of the different volumes of the manhwa that I read. Generally, if it's the same book but split up in multiple volumes, I will tag them with the same genre. As a result, you may see a little bit of skewing in terms of the genre breakdown. So essentially, technically it's the same book, but it's broken down to multiple volumes for Villains Are Destined to Die. However, I tagged all 4 of them being historical, so the historical percentage definitely got bumped up a little bit because of that. Okay, now let's do a quick speed runs of all the books that I read that were part of a reading vlog. I really want to speed run this since I don't want to have any more duplicate information put out there. I have a whole extensive review of all these books that I'm going to talk about in my Not in Love reading vlog, so I'm just gonna quickly talk about the star rating I gave it along with a little brief information, key points that I want you guys to know about. And of course, if you have already seen this from my previous videos, feel free to skip around. I have everything timestamped below just to make your watching experience a little bit better. Alright, now let's get into the first book, which is Villains Are Destined to Die. This is both the manhwa and the web novel. I gave the web novel 4 stars and the manhwa 5 stars for 3 different volumes of this manhwa. Personally, for me, I really enjoy the artwork. It's beautiful. The plot is not a very common typical villainous trope, so I really enjoyed that aspect of this book. However, the special stories in the web novel kind of gave me a little bit of a ring around. I did not enjoy the special story in the web novel that much, and since technically we're at the climax of the book already in the manhwa, so when I went to the web novel to read it, I only had about like 20% of it being the actual plot or the main story, and the rest were just all the special stories. And I don't know, I was just not feeling the special story, which is why I bumped it down to 4 stars. Main plot, everything super solid. Side stories can get a little bit a little bit weird, but overall still really good reading experience. I highly recommend if you're looking for a manhwa that is just not your typical villainous story where the villainess is a good person. This villainess in this case is just desperately trying to survive in any way that she can. And of course, this book was recommended by Love Lauren. Take a shot for however many times I have mentioned her so far. I think it's probably like 4 shots at this point. But moving on to the next book that I read as part of my reading vlog was Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters. I gave this book 4 stars. This book was slightly filler-like kind of vibe. A lot of the book is just mainly setting up for a big plot point at the end and for future books, so I didn't really mind it. It had its own quirks and funny moments in it, and I still really enjoyed reading the book. That's why I gave it 4 stars. So for the last book on my reading vlog, it was Not in Love, and I gave it 5 stars for vibes and vibes only. I thoroughly enjoyed that book the whole time, but it's definitely more on the serious side with a heavy focus on romance, like erotic romance. So if smut is not your thing, I highly do not recommend that book. Also, there was a lot of just physical attraction first, so if you don't like that, this book is probably not going to be for you. Now that the speed recap is done, let's actually talk about all the other books that I finished for the month of June. Alright, now let's start off this portion with a very familiar book to you all, The Seventh Loop Villainess. This is the manga edition, and I gave it 5 stars. So far, I just absolutely love the artwork in this. It's gorgeous. It actually has the portion where Arnold finds out that Riche disguised herself as a man to train in his cadet training, and that scene was just everything to me. It's so cute, so awkward, and then like another cadet trainer stumbles upon them and was just like, why are you guys being so intimate? Like, what is going on here? That portion is everything to me. So 5 stars. Love this book. The next book I read is a manhwa called How to Win My Husband Over Season 1. I talked about the fact that Season 2 is on my ongoing piles, so you already know this is a solid 4.5 stars, but I am on like a I hate all the brothers of female lead train right now, because what is wrong with Caesar? I have no words. Like, if you are currently up to date with the manhwa, I have no words. I am so upset. What is happening? Even though this is an isekai, and honestly majority of manhwas nowadays are isekai, I really enjoy the refreshing take of the perspective of the villainess and what she does to try to stay alive. But also my heart hurts for this girl because she's just been put in a really bad situation. If you are going to end up reading this book, definitely check out the trigger warnings, because there's a lot of abuse that the female lead go through, and I hate her family. I hate her family with all my heart. In general, the plot is super cute. I love the male lead and the female lead. There is a bit of miscommunication, and you see majority of the story through her eyes, so they are slightly biased, and she's not a really reliable narrator, and that's something that you come to find out throughout the book. But it also causes a lot of rift between her and her husband. But I cannot wait to see what happens and how the male lead will react to what has happened in the latest chapter, because oh my god, I honestly don't know how he is going to react, and that's why I said I might even pick up the web novel for the month of July. Alright, the next book I read in the month of June was Skin of a Sinner, and this was a recommendation from Chriselle from Little Toron. She is basically a dark romance girly, but unfortunately I did give this book 3.5 stars, which honestly is not that low. It is technically the lowest rated of this month, but I think it's honestly because this month has been so good to me and I read a lot of great books. But for me, Roman Rivera, as sweet as he is, to remember all the little details about Bella and how to keep her happy, I just wish he used his brain a little bit more, okay? There was this one moment that I was so annoyed at him because he doesn't want Bella to leave his side. Of course, there's like a little bit miscommunication, mistrust between them from everything that has happened, but he doesn't want to leave her alone at the motel. So what does he do instead? He brings her with him to a fight club where he has a hit out on his head from prison, from something he did in prison, and now the whole world, basically the underground world, knows that she's basically his soft spot. So if you get your hands on her, you basically hit him at his weak spot, right? And what happens? That literally happens. Someone kidnaps her, grabs her, and hurts her, and that causes a rift in the relationship. So that part I didn't really enjoy. There's also a little bit of dubious consent in this book where I wasn't sure if I really enjoyed it for that particular scene because they were just coming off of the kidnapping earlier. So I don't know. Overall, I think it was a good dabble in much more serious dark romances, but I don't think this one was 100% for me. However, the comments about like it being too much Disney focus was not true at all, aside from the fact that his nickname is Mickey. And I think it's kind of relevant because that's just how Bella copes with her trauma, and I don't think that was like a bad reference at all. One thing I really do like about this book is that there's a lot of built up history between the two of them, whereas some of the dark romance, they just hit it off right away. So these two knew each other since they were kids and they grew up together. The male lead is ride or die, always protects the girl, and that part really built up their relationship a lot better for me, which is why I gave the rating a lot more of a solid rating, because there's history between them. It makes sense how they feel about each other, even though the male lead is a little bit aggressive at time and thinks with his fist first and not his brain. Alright, now let's talk about the two books that had a pretty solid rating for my month of June, and the first being Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I gave this book 4.5 stars. I did not expect to enjoy this book so much, purely on the fact that Daniel, the male lead, has a beard. To be completely honest with you guys, I wasn't sure if I was going to like the book because I am not a fan of beards. If the book has a male lead with a beard in it, 80% of the time, I'm just gonna not enjoy it. But Daniel is the goodest, best golden retriever boy you can ask for, and it's still a very solid book, even if he has a beard. That's fine. I'm okay with it because he has a baby goat, okay? Honestly, I wasn't sure how they were going to address the social difference between Alexa's life and Daniel's life, but I felt like Jimenez did a really good job addressing it and resolving their situation. I love that Alexa grew to be a lot more confident in herself, both from the help of Daniel and also the fact that she's been going through therapy. The only reason I gave this 4.5 stars, losing the 0.5 stars, was purely the fact that I felt like Alexa didn't address the situation with her parents. Her parents were abusive towards her and basically groomed her to be a point where she was willing to take abuse from her ex-husband. I'm glad that they kind of addressed and figured a way to have some character progression for the ex, but I wish something was done about the mom and the dad, or at the very least the mom, since it was heavily implied that the mom was originally a victim and then eventually became a perpetrator of abuse herself. So I really wished that we had some instances of addressing that. I felt like it was really brushed off, especially at the end after Alexa finds a way to continue the lineage of the Montgomery line or something like that. I wish there was a little bit more to that instead of just skipping over the fact and just her saying like I love you to Daniel. Like, yes, they are super cute together, they are very cute, all that good stuff, but I felt like we left a really big part unresolved, and I'm hoping maybe in the future books, I know that it doesn't really get addressed in yours truly, but maybe in the future books we'll see a little bit more crumbs about the relationship between her parents and how their dynamic has changed. Overall, I still really enjoyed the book, and I love everything Daniel and Alexa related. They are so cute together. I'm glad there wasn't too many miscommunication and they were adults and they were very upfront about it. The way the relationship progresses and the stances they take all kind of make sense to me, and that's probably a really big reason why I thoroughly enjoyed the book. Especially when they said that their relationship has an end date, and then you see this push and pull, and it just feels so realistic to me that I was just so encapsulated in their story. Almost immediately after reading Part of Your World, I picked up yours truly and I gave it a 4.99 stars. Why? Because I did not get the filthy smut I wanted between Bree and Jacob. I adore those two characters. By far, this is probably one of my favorite couples, period, in romance books because they are just everything to me. I love Jacob's social anxiety. I felt like it was very well depicted, and I love how understanding Bree was about his social anxiety and how both of them navigated their lives, their friendship, and their relationship. So I thoroughly enjoyed that part of the book, and I was very disappointed when we don't really see them together. There's a lot of closed doors. There is one scene where they do it, but honestly, I wish it was on the level of Not in Love at this point because I love the two of them together so much. This book does have a little bit of miscommunication here and there, but it wasn't enough to take away from the book itself. I love the characterization of Jacob. I love his growth, his character growth. I love that once he realizes that he's in love with Bree, he's willing to go out of his comfort zone to fight for her and get her back. That is just so special to see that character growth of somebody with social anxiety. Honestly, it's really relatable on how Jimenez writes a person with social anxiety. As somebody who is pretty introverted and don't really like crowded, tight spaces with a lot of people and a lot of communication, especially if you put me in a room or a party with a lot of people I don't know, I am the most awkward person you'll ever meet. I don't even know what to say. I don't know what to talk about. So to see that being depicted in the story felt so true and so realistic. I love how she did it. I honestly could see myself as a character with Jacob, which is probably why Jacob has a special part in my heart. I thoroughly enjoy that. I love the Bree interaction with Jacob, and honestly his family standing up for him with the fact that his brother got together with his ex. Beautiful. I loved it. I just wish we got to see Bree be much more of an attack dog and attack the ex, because she's shady, the brother is shady. I understand that Jacob is over it or whatever, but still shady. Okay, that is it for my monthly wrap up. Let me know in the comment section if you agree with any of my reviews or if you have any other opinions about the books that I talked about on here. Honestly, looking back, I realized I didn't really talk about the books themselves. A lot of the times I just talk about my feelings and my thought process of the book. So maybe also let me know if you guys like a little bit of a synopsis about the book as well, because basically if you've never read these books, you're just hearing like an unfiltered brain dump of my opinions of the book, and I'm not sure if you like that or not. Let me know down in the comment section. I am probably doing a poor job with these monthly wrap up now looking back, but it's okay, learning experience. And with that, I think I'm going to end this video here. We had a lot of technical issues today, but I'm just gonna power through, edit, do what I can, because there's no way I'm refilming this. All right, and with that, if you guys enjoy bookish content, definitely make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.